everyone. I am Donna Stone. Thank you so much for being with us at Project Bold Life today. I am so excited. We have Sheryl Hunter here, and she is a lawyer, a mom, a businesswoman, you name it. And Sheryl, I am thrilled to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Donna. I appreciate it.
Tell me a little bit about just your philosophy on life. I love when I get people on the show that have so much going on. I mean, you have your own business, you're very successful, you're a mom, I mean, you give back to the community. How do you manage it all, and what is that philosophy like?
We're going to go for the big question, the big Oprah question right out of the bat. All right.
Right, isn't that the best way to do it?
Yes, no, that's a big question with a lot of different answers. I think every day it's a little bit of a challenge, and I think so much is what's going on up here. You know, you have to really get up and put on a brave face, and, you know, if your emotions are down, or doldrums, if some people call them, you got to just say, you know, I have an action plan for the day, and I'm going to make it my best day. And my brother's great about saying every day's a blessing, and he's so right. And I think if you get up and just put it into that context, and gratitude, people talk a lot about having gratitude, and I think stopping and having some appreciation for those moments. But there's no doubt hit 2 o'clock in the morning and I'll spring up, what's wrong? And I'm like, just like, oh, I forgot to do this one thing, you know, and it's like a panic. So it's not easy when you have a lot of irons in the fire to maintain control over all of those things. And if you're a person that's really dedicated to doing things ethically and doing them well, and you have high standards, and you don't cut corners, it sets a high bar for every day, and you're not always going to reach it. So, you know, I don't think it's an easy thing. I would say some of my ways of coping, if you will, is I do read a lot, and I also listen. We were talking before the show. I listen all the time to NPR One's How I Built This with Guy Raz, those interviews, and realization that nobody's had an easy road who's been successful, you know, and they've all had their ups and downs, and it's the stick-to-itness that largely gets people through, that they just know where they're going, and every day they get up and they go for it, and don't get so hard on themselves with each milestone. So
no, I love that. I like also that you said that it's not easy, because I think when we look at other people's lives, we feel like, oh, they have it easy, or somehow they're making it easy. And I know I give a lot of motivational talks, and after I'm done, people are like, oh my goodness, how do you do it all? You know, how do you manage it? I'm like, well, it's not easy. I'm not talking about all the hard stuff when I'm doing a motivational talk. I'm talking about all the things that went right, and they're not hearing about all the things that were difficult and maybe went wrong, you know, that you had to do over several times, you fail, and then you finally achieve. So
absolutely.
I like that I hear you saying, hey, it's not easy. I'm doing it.
Yes.
And here's some of the things,
I do think a couple of things. I'm a very curious person, and I love people, so everything's interesting to me, right? Like, I want to learn about this, that, and the other thing, and I do think that a discipline that I've had to instill in myself is to stay focused on, particularly in business, to stay focused on the niche that I'm in. Like, I used to be much more broad, and I think that I lost an edge doing that, both from a marketing standpoint and attracting certain types of clients and really being an expert in a certain area. So that is one piece of advice I would say professionally, that I think you have to find your lane and be really, really good at what you do.
Well, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So you're a lawyer, and you worked for large firms, you've worked for small firms, and like you're talking about your niche now, that you work with entrepreneurs now. Like, how did that come about?
Well, it took a while to sort of find the perfect niche for myself. And yes, you mentioned I started off at Carlton Fields, which is a very reputable, large firm, great people. Just about a year or two into it, of the 3 years that I was there, it didn't feel right. It's like if you have clothing on that's not like your style, you can't figure out why. Like, this is a beautiful outfit, but I didn't feel right. I didn't feel right in it. And because of the prestige of landing a job like that, I stayed, you know, probably longer than I really wanted to. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And so I had to try on some different outfits to figure out what my style was. I went from there to a very small litigation firm. And then I opened my own firm, and then I actually was in-house for about 6 years with a real estate developer, but that was more of a business position. I was hired mainly to start a startup, to run a startup, which was an equity vacation club. So it was very fun, but it was a huge project, and I had a 20-month-old, a 2-month-old. I had to shut down my practice, and they wanted to launch this portfolio of 8 multi-million-dollar homes all over the country within 8 months. So I was like, sure, I can do it. Strap on. Right?
Oh my goodness.
So, but it was really fun. It was exciting, and that's probably where it became really evident to me that my passion is the convergence of business and law.
Right.
So if that's how I enjoy practicing law, is when it's in the mix of all of this exciting entrepreneurial energy. So that's why the niche that I'm in now is perfect for me.
Right. Well, and I would say the entrepreneurs can learn from you too. So you have something other than, yes, you're giving them great advice and you're working with them, but you've kind of been there a little bit. So
yeah, I actually had 4 years I did an online education company. We had over 500 online courses for people in the senior care industry, and I was still practicing law, and we never made enough money to keep going with that. So it was 4 years of blood, sweat, and tears, and I learned a ton of very applicable knowledge going through that process, and I understand when I see that look on my client's face that they're struggling and they're wondering if they need to shut down what they're doing.
Right. But at least you can understand where they're at and give them great
all the
advice
emotions. And if they're not following my advice, that they should pivot and move on.
Right.
I know why.
Yes.
Because
you've been there,
super
and it's
hard to let go of what you built.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So you talk about starting your own firm, and what would be maybe a piece of advice if you had somebody out there, whether they're going to be a lawyer and open their own practice, or just any other woman or man out there that wants to start a company? Is there something that was really difficult about it, and what would your advice be?
Well, I think you have to be a little bit bold. You have to be confident about yourself and what you're doing, and recognize that all of the examples around you of successful people, they're probably a little scared too, and a little bit like, am I doing this right? You know, I feel that almost every day. Like, it's another hurdle every day to try to improve on what you're doing and stay in the space that you're in and doing it effectively.
Right.
So every day that's a little bit of a challenge. So I think you have to just be strong, and also a little of, I don't really like the phrase fake it till you make it, but it does capture one element of that you have to put on a strong face, and you have to say, I can do this, and figure out a way to do it. And a lot of that comes from relationships and leaning on people who are great mentors and who are part of your tribe, if you will.
Right.
It's important to have those people in your life that you can go to. I had some great other attorney relationships when I opened my first firm for the first time that I was able to call on and go, gosh, you know, can you just give me 5 minutes? I'm not really sure what to do. It wasn't something I could research. It was a gut instinct that comes from experience, and you can't just create or research that. You have to kind of lean on other people that are knowledgeable to do that.
Yeah, I find it very fortunate. I had some great mentors as well.
Yeah.
But I do get a lot of, like when I do my talks, people come up and say, how do you find a mentor? How do you tell people about how do you get a mentor?
Well, I think you have to really love people, and you have to put yourself out there as someone who's interested in what other people are doing before they're going to come to you as a mentor. Like, it's a two-way street. You can't just say, hey, I need a mentor, come help me. You know, you have to be engaged. So some of this, I believe in organic relationship development. Like, I really don't think you can, I've seen law firms, big law firms in particular, try to match people as mentors. And I don't know that it's something that you can really, any more than any other kind of relationship. There has to be a chemistry, a natural chemistry, and kind of like, you know it when you see it or feel it. When you meet someone and there's an instant energy and connection with that person. And somebody who is a natural mentor will feel that energy with you as well, and they'll want to help you. So I know that's not like, I'm not giving you a Yellow Pages number to call, here's your mentor, but you have to get out in the community, and you have to seek those people out, but not in a, in a harassing kind of way.
Well, that's what I always tell people. It's just, you can't go ask for mentors. It's one of those things. You can ask to meet people for coffee, meet people, have a meeting, but it comes naturally, and you'll know it when it happens that, okay, I can learn so much from this person, and they seem to enjoy spending time with me and helping me.
And I don't think it's any one person. I mean, I think that knowledge comes from a cumulative effect of talking and listening and reading and gathering information through a lot of different forums, so
I would agree
it doesn't have
with
to be any one mentor.
Right. So I heard you mention your kids.
Yes.
So you have 2 kids.
Yes.
And of course you have your own business. You're always really busy. Can you talk a little bit about how you manage your kind of work life along with that personal family life, and how you're able to balance those two?
Oh, well, my son, Logan, he is 15. He's going into his sophomore year. And my daughter is 13, almost 14, going into 8th grade. So they are fantastic. And a lot of it, I have to give my husband credit for so much of the ability to manage all of this. So he is Mr. Mom in a lot of ways, you know, and such a great partner in that respect. Does a ton of stuff with the kids. I mean, we're definitely a shared parenting household. He's much better at laundry than I am, so it's kind of he does all of that. So it's a two-person job to manage a family, and we only have 2 kids. I look at the moms who have like 4 or 5 children, and they're also running company. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, in the same way, I have some friends that have 4 kids, and I'm like, how do you do it? I mean, I have 2, and it's a lot to juggle.
Yes, and we're blessed. Our kids are really independent. They're really, you know, on their schoolwork, and so we haven't had some of the challenges of health and learning disabilities and things like that. I mean, every family has their challenges, but I will say that it's a completely different ballgame when you're faced with a health crisis or a learning disability, something that takes a lot more parenting vigilance and you know, we're dedicated to, but you understand my point.
Well, it's like being grateful, right? You're so grateful. You sound grateful right now for how fortunate you are.
Yes, and mindful and empathetic to other families when I see them face a challenge like that. Like, it only takes one little thing and your schedule is off. Completely off in another direction, and now you're, you know, trying to just stay afloat, and that's a very tough space to be in. But as far as just getting it all done, there are days where I would say I'm on top of the world. In fact, I love that song, Whatever It Takes, which is Imagine Dragons. So I'll listen to that, and then an hour later, I listen to Jesus Take the Wheel. So I'm like, whatever it takes, the adrenaline in my, you know, and I just get pumped. Like, that's my pump up song. And then when I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do all this? I get Carrie Underwood, Jesus Take the Wheel. So that's the emotions that entrepreneurs and moms trying to manage. That's like every 30 minutes. You can go
have to go download those 2 songs.
Exactly.
Because sometimes it is in the morning, you need that pump up, like ready to go, and sometimes you're just like, oh my goodness, you know, I need a little bit of help here.
Let me give this over to God, because it's out of my control right now. Absolutely.
Oh, I get that. So talking about just, you know, you talked about family and work, but what do you personally do for fun? So I know you work a lot and you have family, but what do you do for yourself?
That's an area that it's an interesting one to answer, because fun for me, I actually really like working, and I love to, like, it's all about reading business things. I love Entrepreneur Magazine, Inc. Magazine, the shows I was telling you about. I love to watch The Profit. So that's actually fun for me to delve deep into business and
that's your downtime also, because you enjoy it.
Largely, yes. So people are like, you work all the time. I'm like, yeah, but this part of it's the fun part of the work that I like to do. But I do enjoy I'm very close with my parents, live locally. My brother and his family live locally. We spend a lot of family time. My son is a competitive golfer, and I was a competitive golfer growing up, but lost my mojo on the course. But it's coming back. So we play a lot of golf as a family, which is awesome. I play with many weekends I play with my dad, my son, and my husband. So that's our foursome. So that's just an amazing way of being with the family. But my daughter doesn't play, so I have to do other things with her, and taking her to the beach this weekend. So I can't say that I'm always focused exactly how I should be on the family when I'm with the family, but we do a lot of things together, and I've always been the one that's carpooling and the kids, and wanting, I think, especially when they were younger, I wanted to hear what was going on in their lives through osmosis in the back seat.
It's the best way to find out.
It really is, and always, another thing that I think I've been very good at is I show up. Like, I go to almost all the golf tournaments. When my daughter's doing gymnastics, I'm at all of the gymnastics. I don't miss those types of things. I might stay up till 2 in the morning because I did go to that, so that's to my detriment, but I don't like to miss those events, those special
I always say you do what matters most, right? You find those things that matter most, and you make sure you show up for those things.
Exactly.
So you might not be
those
able to be there for everything.
Those are not the ones I want to feel bad about
Exactly.
missing.
Yeah, and I think that's hard. I think a lot of working moms think, you know, oh, I can't be at every single school function that they're having. But as long as you're going to those ones that matter most, I think that's what's important.
And that's where it goes back to, you talked about gratitude and certain things that make it easier for me than it would be for some other mothers is I have that, because I own my own firm, I can go to wherever I want to go to, and I can work till 2 in the morning if I need to, and I don't have to show up at the office at 8. Nobody's checking my time clock. So there's a lot of freedom in that many moms and parents don't have.
Right.
Because they don't have that option.
Yeah, no, I always feel fortunate. I always say, so owning your own company, a lot of times you work a lot harder than you do working for someone else. You work a lot more hours, but you do have that flexibility that if you decide at 2 o'clock your daughter's in a play, you can go see that play at 2 o'clock, where maybe you would not have that flexibility otherwise. So it's give and take, right? And I think sometimes when you have your own company, you never let it go either. It's always there. So
it's always there.
It's hard to just walk away and try not to think about it. You're constantly thinking about it.
Absolutely. That's so true.
Yeah, so that's the difficult part. But yeah, the good and bad both. But I would say maybe weigh it a little more good on the good side.
Yes.
So you find it very important to help other women, but also younger girls. I was reading about some of the things that you've been doing. Can you share with me a little bit more of how important it is for young girls to start off early and know about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, or just learn about business?
I would say what I love about entrepreneurship and why I think it facilitates other benefits to learn about it is there's a quote that I love by Julie Garland, which is, always be a first-rate version of yourself and not a second-rate version of someone else. And entrepreneurship facilitates being authentic in the world. If something is a passion of yours, and maybe you can't just go to a corporation and do that passion because it either doesn't exist or you're just not in a position to do that, you can start your own business. You can create that good that you've been like, this is a cool idea. I want to make handbags with dogs on them, whatever. You can do that as an entrepreneur, or if you have a new disruptive idea, you can go do that by starting your own business. But I think that even if someone doesn't end up owning their own company, starting something brand new, the ability to tap into who you are from an authentic standpoint and feel comfortable in your own shoes is, to me, the #1 means of success. Because I just don't believe that you can have success professionally or personally if you are not comfortable in your own shoes and you don't know who you are and you don't know what your gifts are in this world.
Right. And to start young to understand that.
Start young to understand it and facilitate it. So a good example would be, I had my daughter and some other girls over when they were, 8 or 9 years old, and we did vision boards. And, just having them kind of cut out magazines and put goals up. And it was so interesting to see how different these vision boards were among the different girls and their interests. And it's just an exercise of discovering what makes you tick, what makes you excited, what brings you joy. And once you recognize that in a young girl or young man, the boys need help too. Then you can have conversations with them. Like, okay, I see that you're interested in this. How do you want to do that in the world? How do you see getting to do that professionally? And you can have conversations.
Okay, I might steal this from you. So I've done a vision board before. I think it's so important, and I always tell people they should actually get out there and just do it.
It's fun, actually.
And it's so easy to do now, because you can do it computer-wise. You can do it on the computer too. But I still like cutting out and pasting everything. But I would love to have my 10-year-old daughter and her friends do it. And I've never thought about having them do it.
It's a great birthday party, actually. I actually came up with I still have the domain purposefulparties.com. It's my retirement business.
Oh, nice.
Where it's going to be like parties that are designed, birthday party themes that are designed to help kids either give back to the community, so it might be a fundraiser type of birthday party. Because we would go to all these parties, and the kids that have so much, they're just getting more and more and more. And they don't need all of those things. They need to give gifts into the world, and so if you have parties that are either to build up their character or self-discovery, like a vision board party,
well, you have to do this. I like this idea. That's a great idea.
Trying to stay in my lane, Donna. This is what we talked about.
I know.
To be successful, you have to stay focused. My mother's like, no more things.
That's a great idea, though. Yeah, but I agree. Stay focused. That's what's important.
Nobody take that idea.
I know. Well, you own it, so you're good. Well,
I hope somebody does do it, actually.
Actually, it would be great. I've heard a lot of times now, instead of gifts, people are asking to give. You know what I mean? And so I thought that was amazing. I've seen that lately on a couple invitations, and I've just been like, that's genius, because my kids need nothing anymore. I mean,
I
they have
know.
so many toys, and they have a party, and they just sit in the corner. And so a lot of times now we'll take those toys unopened, and we'll bring them somewhere
Yep.
and give them. And I think that's really important too. But I would prefer just not to have them. Just give right away in the
Yep.
beginning.
Exactly.
So one last question, actually I should say two because I have one very last question, but I wanted to talk about personal development. So, you're talking about helping young girls like think about what's next for them and how to feel more comfortable in their skin. But how do you, as an adult, as a successful business person, constantly improve yourself? So personal development is so important when we're talking about Project Bold Life and having a bold life, just continuing to improve yourself. How do you do that?
Well, I think that recognizing that you're not perfect and that you have a lot to learn at any stage in life is sort of part of that. So you have to invite knowledge and information. One thing I definitely work on and I think has really helped me in my life is having a mentality of abundance. So I don't like people to say, well, aren't you worried about sharing that idea or competitors? I'm like, it's all going to come to me. I'm happy to help other people. I don't view people as competitors in that way. I think we all help each other rise, and there's plenty to go around, to your point. And I think that that's facilitated a lot of very positive relationships, both working and personal. I'm involved in an organization called Key Women's Forum that Mary Key, Dr. Mary Key, she's an executive coach, but she's got these 8 to 12 women groups. So I think there's 5 or 6 of the forums now in Tampa. And it's all other women who are either senior C-level executives or own their own companies. So we're dealing with a lot of the same issues, trying to grow a business, being a good manager, which is always a challenge to strike the right balance with that. Dealing with some of people have gone through divorces, some people have gone through loss of a parent, caregiving demands. So that's been a really fantastic, because I think in the larger group there's like 45 women, and so we get together regularly, and several of the women that are in those groups were just selected for the Tampa Bay Business Journal Businesswoman of the Year. So I think I see it working. It's just sounding boards with sort of like-minded women.
Well, what a great way to learn.
It's a great way to learn because we share information. Like I was lamenting, like, gosh, how do I be a better manager with employees? And one of my women in my group's like, you got to read Radical Candor. It's it's a really great book about managing people where you're able to give them constructive feedback, but in a more positive way. And so that kind of information, and then I think constant lifelong learning is the only way to keep improving yourself.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I agree wholeheartedly with that. So really last question.
Okay.
What does it mean to you to live a bold life?
I'd have to go back to that quote. I think you have to be a first-rate version of yourself, and you have to have a lot of self-acceptance, and that's also imperfections, like habits that year after year you say you're going to break, and yet, like I always say, I got to go to bed earlier, and then around 10 o'clock hits and my brain goes, woo, and I'm like Googling and reading, and it's like not going to really change,
So accept it.
Accept that that's kind of how you're built and constructed, and find a way to make those things work for you instead of fighting them all the time. And it also means you don't look at other people with envy. And you don't try to be someone you're not. And I think that all of that authenticity and the ability to be that way, it resonates with people. It makes you more approachable, more likable and real. And I think that's very attractive quality. So.
Wonderful. Well, that was a great answer, and I think our viewers here have learned quite a bit, so I love it. Sheryl, so happy to have you on the show
Donna.
today.
My pleasure.
Really appreciate it, and hope to see you again soon.
I know we will.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.